Bonsoir! So tonight, what I'm going to show you how to do is how to do any filet of fish on this wonderful rotisserie. And trust me, if you do it the way I tell you, it'll be moist and wonderful. So originally, when I tried to do a filet just on this butter fish net, it would dry out really quickly and not so good. So what I did was I put a cedar plank. I soaked it for a little bit, mounted my salmon on it, and then I did the rotisserie. But look at this wild rice I did with the asparagus, and look how wonderful it is. I'll show you how to do everything so simple, so easy. My preparation to do the salmon, I'm going to season it with some pepper, freshly grounded, some fennel seeds, salt, lemon, olive oil, and fresh thyme. And I'm going to mount it on a cedar plank for my rotisserie, and I will explain why later. Here I am preparing what I'm going to put on my platter. It's going to be wild rice, and this is a Middle Eastern mix, which I love. I would recommend that you do not go to a grocery store. Find a Middle Eastern grocer, if you can, and buy this rice. It's very typical in Lebanon, and it's very flavorful and will retain it. So what I'm doing is putting 1 cup of water of vegetable stock to my 1 cup of rice. And once that cooks, I will put it on my platter. And on top of that, I will add the asparagus, which I will show you a trick. Just bend. See if I can do it with one hand. I can't. Oh, there it goes. So it will naturally break where you need it. And some people peel the asparagus, but because I am putting it in the rotisserie, I will not. And I'll just coat it with some olive oil and put it on top of the rice once I plate it. And we'll come back to that. Okay, so what I did is I took a piece of cedar wood, soaked it, for about 20 minutes in water. And just soaked it, put something like a pot on top of it so it just soaks the water. Then I put the salmon, I put my fennel seeds on there, I put my salt, pepper, and thyme, and then I added my lemon, and of course some salt, and compressed it, not too tight, but it's tight enough so it won't want. Now, you're wondering why I put this cedar on it. Well, when I first started using my Cornue and I put a salmon, what happened, it dried out very quickly. And I found by putting the cedar against the skin, it retains the moisture into the salmon, and it browns this really nicely, but doesn't overcook it too quickly. So I'll show you what that looks like once it's on the rotisserie, and it cooks rather quickly, in about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes. So what I'll show you is what I add the platter, the rice, the asparagus on top. I'll actually add that before I put the salmon, and maybe 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and then I will add the salmon, and you'll see. So what I made over here is I made some nice vegetable broth, and I added a little butter, a little seasoning, salt, pepper, And I'm going to come here. And I am gonna just put some of this onto my salmon. My timing is off because here we go. Just gonna spoon this. And don't be shy, just put it as quickly as you can. And that'll keep the salmon moist. And by the way, this plank cedar that I'm doing, you can do it with any kind. I would actually highly recommend it. You're doing any kind of fillet that you're doing. So sea bass with the skin, anything, any fish you're doing, it will work wonderfully. Just fillet though. A whole fish, no, you don't need this plank. I would put it just on the butterfly here that Cornue provides you with the flambe. Let's get some more juice on this. There we go. And drip it on my rice. And I keep doing it. I want to keep it moist as I'm going. So a fillet is really thin, you know, because they cut it against the bone, or you cut it against the bone. And that's the reason why I use a cedar plank that's been submerged. Keeps everything nice and moist. It'll brown everything nicely there. My asparagus is cooking nicely. And let me show you. Oh, there we go. And that's the cedar plank. You can see the thickness of it. You can get it at your grocery store. And just keep that salmon or any fillet. You can do sea bass, you can do whatever you want. Cod, you know, anything. You press it with the lemon, it's wonderful. So I do not want my rice to dry out. So I have this beautiful butter vegetable broth, and I will just not be afraid to just add a little juice in there. I don't want this to dry out, so don't be afraid to add it. And look how beautiful that is. Here we go. So what I keep doing is taking my vegetable broth with a little butter that I put in there, only a tablespoon of butter, and I keep my wonderful salmon moist. And I don't have to worry about the backside because of the cedar plank. And you can't see, but let me show you. And then I baste the asparagus, asparagus as well. And I added some of that same broth into my wild rice, Middle Eastern wild rice. And look at that color. Oh my God, it's starting to be beautiful. Show you, and here we have it. Saumon au citron avec des riz et des asperges. Bon appétit. Et voilà. Salmon, wild rice, and asparagus.